visit modalities and guidelines for higher education institutions. Highest form of prayer comes from the depth of humble heart. Let us all take a moment and request God for our event to be a successful one. I invite Ms. Sandhya and Ms. Ashmita to render the prayer song and Tamil Thai வாழ்த்து.
Namo Ariyantanam, Namo Sedanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vajayanam, Namo Loesavasahunam, Eso Panchanamukaru, Sarva Papa Panashanam, Mangalanam Chesavesam. Padamam Havai Mangalam, Padamam Havai Mangalam. நீராறும் கடலொடுத்த நிலமடந்த கெடிலொழுகும் சீராறும் வதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிது தெக்கனமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடன திருநாளும் தக்க சிறு திரை முதரும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனகே தமிழனகே உன் சீரிலமை திரும்பி எழுத செயல்படுத வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
Thank you, Ms. Sandhya and Ms. Ashmita. With the blessings of God, I invite our beloved Madam Principal, Dr. S. Padmavati, Sri Shankarlal Sundarbai Shasum Jain College for Women, to welcome the gathering and introduce our chief guest of the day, Professor S.P. Tyagarajan Sir, Chancellor, Avinashalingam Institute of Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore.
Thank you, Dr. Diana. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. A very good day to one and all present here. On behalf of Sri Shankarlal Sundarbai Sashun Jain College for Women, I take immense pleasure in welcoming everyone who have gathered on the Zoom platform for this 2 days national seminar. A very pleasant morning to all present here. On behalf of Sri Shankarlal Sundarbai Sashun Jain College for Women, I take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this 2-day virtual NAAC-sponsored seminar on IIQA, SSR, DVB, and peer team visit, modalities and guidelines for higher educational institution organized by the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of our college in association with NAAC. It is easier to tell a person what life is not, rather than to tell them what it is. Bringing in new modalities and guidelines enrich higher education of students with different perspectives. According to Chanakya, the fragrance of flowers spread only in the directions of the wind, but the goodness of a person spreads in all directions. Amidst us, we have such an inspiring person, Professor Dr. S.P. Tyagarajan Ji, Chancellor, Avinashalingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore. Sir has also served as a Vice Chancellor for the University of Madras, to which the college is affiliated. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir. Dr. Professor S.P. Tyagarajan has done DSc in microbiology in addition to his PhD and MD degrees. He has 51 years of teaching and research experience in Tamil Nadu Medical Colleges, University of Madras, and Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research Institute. He has completed 60 research projects funded by national and international funding agencies with grants over rupees 50 crores to the institutions where he has served. Thank you so much, sir. It is so appealing, and we are very thankful to you for gracing this occasion, and you're going to deliver the keynote address. Thank you, sir. He has published 347 research papers and 20 books in areas of infectious and non-communicable diseases like hepatitis, HIV, H1N1, COVID-19, diabetes, lifestyle diseases, Besides drug discovery projects, he has guided 32 PhDs and 12 postdoctoral research scholars. Professor Dr. S.P. Tyagarajan invented a drug for the treatment of chronic jaundice called hepatitis B from the Indian medicinal plant Philanthromus Tamil Kilanelli. This invention was accorded with national and international patent on the name of the University of Madras, and the patents have already been in USA, UK, South Africa, and North Korea. The drug has already been marketed by University Industry Agreement under the brand name Virohe by Rallis India Pharmaceuticals, Shreya Life Sciences, Mumbai. He conducted international collaborative projects with scientists from 26 countries. His research contributions have been recognized with 42 international and national awards. At present, he serves as Chancellor, Avinashalingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore. Sir, we are very much honored to have you today, sir. I also feel honored to welcome the speakers for the 2-day session. Dr. Balachandra D. Bole, Secretary, IQAC Cluster India, MES, Abasaheb Gavare College, Pune. Dr. Swati Paliwal, IQAC Coordinator, Guru Nanak College, Chennai. Mr. Prag S. Shah, Founder Member and Treasurer, IQAC Cluster, PES Modern College, Pune. And Dr. U. Jerinabi, IQAC Coordinator, Avinashalingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore. I take immense pleasure in welcoming our Honorary Secretary General, Sri Abhayaji Sri Srimal, our Madam Secretary, Usha Abhaya Sri Srimal, our Associate Secretary, Dr. Arish G. L. Mehta, our own staff members, and all the participants who have joined this Zoom platform across India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. With immense pleasure, I invite Professor S.P. Tyagarajan, sir, to address the gathering.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this very kind invitation from the Sassoon Jain College for Women. I am profusely thankful to the Secretary, Dr. Abhay Kumarji, and also the Associate Secretary, Dr. Harish Mehta, and the Principal, Dr. Bhatmavati, and all the others from the IQAC for putting together an excellent program here, and also to see that this program is widely being attended by the various colleges in the area of Tamil Nadu. I would like to share with you what is important for all of us to attend it, because this particular seminar itself is going to talk about the nitty-gritties of the process of assessment and accreditation. You are going to narrate each and every aspect or stages of the assessment and accreditation, and hence I would try to underscore the overall evolution of the process of assessment and accreditation in our country, and what all going to happen because of the implementation of the National Education Policy 2020. That may give you a food for thought as to how this is going to be a continuous process. Because as far as I am concerned, who has been associated with the assessment and accreditation process in the country from the very genesis of the National Assessment and Accreditation Council in the year 1994, I knew how quality has evolved over time, and now it has become comparable to the international kind of expectations in our country. You all must be able to understand that NAAC has been established in 1994. In the last 28 years completed, NAAC has been continuously doing institutional accreditation. It is accrediting the institution as a whole. You must be knowing that there are about 1,043 universities in the country, of which NAAC has so far accredited 412 universities, which means it is roughly only around 25%. And then you do have about 42,343 colleges in the whole country, of which 8,742 colleges have been accredited. There could have been colleges and universities which would have gone through several cycles, but then full accreditation, at least for one time, has taken place only in this kind of number of institutions. So it is far than adequate for us to have that the full level of quality inculcation takes place in the entire country by way of assessment and accreditation. And it is also important to see that it is not only the colleges or universities are accredited as a whole, as an institution. It has become the felt need that the program also have to be accredited, especially the science and technology program. So, National Board of Accreditation came into being almost more or less at the same time, but it got a separate kind of a body in 2010, and you could see around 8,900 programs, engineering programs, have been accredited in the last 12 years. So that was the next level of evolution. Then as it was growing further, you had the necessity for ranking the institutions across the country. And so a body called the National Institutional Ranking Framework has taken place. And this body is actually a body under the NBA. This National Institution Ranking Framework has added another dimension to the quality aspect of the institution. This is the present three stages that is existing in our country. Whatever the kind of a type of accreditation, whether it is institutional accreditation or program accreditation or ranking on a national scale or on the basis of discipline and so on, what is important is preparedness. How are we going to prepare for that? The essence of these procedures, whether it is institutional or program or the ranking processes, is mainly stems from quality internalization. Since quality is an evolving process, it has to be internalized into the system, which means the components of the institution. It is not just only the faculty members, it is also the other components of the staff, maybe technical or non-teaching and so on, also have to be part and parcel of this quality evolution experience. So unless and until every one of us are going to join together, first of all, we will not be able to understand the nuances of the procedures that are involved in the development of the manual or the self-study report or the institutional eligibility, and all the other follow methods like, preparations for the data verification, validation, or the documentations that are required to be provided for along with the self-study report, etc. So first and foremost, it is becoming necessary to have a system in the institution, and that has been constituted by means of the internal quality assurance cell. Many a times, it has become the only body which does the entire work, which is not going to help in quality internalization. When I say quality internalization, it doesn't stop with that. Quality internalization into the system, and then it has to be institutionalized into the college or university, which means every part or component of the institution should transform itself into the quality that has been inculcated, into the best practices that have been implemented, and the new educational culture that has been brought into the institution. So that is called as institutionalization. Once it has become institutionalized, then the whole institution transforms and it becomes a model for other institutions, and hence it may also be considered as internationalized kind of an institution. Today we talk about the globalization of higher education and so on. And so it is important to see that all the three stages are covered. In the next 3 minutes, I will try to highlight to you that what is to come. We are going to have a later version, another avatar of the assessment and accreditation in our country. This is going to be a National Assessment Council as a part of the National Education Policy 2020. That will encompass as an umbrella body of all the areas, like for example, it will have institutional accreditation, program accreditation, and then it will also have ranking. In addition, it is also going to assess and accredit courses, because of the fact that we are giving so much of flexibility for the students through the academic bank of credits that is being implemented as part of NEP. The course accreditation has also going to come in. Hence, this NAAC will become another body having some kind components under them, for a body for institutional accreditation, a sub-body for program accreditation, another body for ranking, and of course, course accreditation, and so on and so forth. That is the next generation that we are going to have. So whatever the genesis and development of the accreditation process, what is important is we have to be prepared for that. Every institution has to be prepared. Every stakeholder has to be prepared. And the only underlying feature is quality evolution, quality internalization, quality institutionalization, and quality internationalization. I wish that you will be able to deliberate upon this as you are going through the nitty-gritties of the present methodology of institutional accreditation, and also give a thought process for it. I would rather request you to have deliberations through your process of this particular seminar. It's a very good initiative that you have been able to take it up. and I'm sure it will be a successful venture. And I wish the Sashun Jain College for Women all the very best. And my good friend, friends, both of them are very good friends. And I wish them all the best and the institution all the very best. Thank you all very much. Thank you so much for this invitation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable inputs and insightful views on higher education institution and accreditation. We are extremely delighted to have our inspirational Honorary Secretary General, Sri Abhay Sri Srimal Jain sir, amongst us today. Sir, I feel honored to invite you to deliver the presidential address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and the teaching faculties. It's a pleasure to have Sri Dr. S.P. Tyagarajanji this morning addressing this important seminar organized along with NAAC. He has been a role model for me in the education field, and I have been fortunate enough to have his guidance and support whenever we seek his help. He really inspired me to be the foundation for starting this college, Sashun Jain College. I also congratulate the principal ma'am, Secretary Usha, Associate Secretary Harish Mehta for organizing this seminar, a two-day virtual NAAC-sponsored national seminar on IIQA, SSR, DVB, and peer team visit, modalities and guidelines for higher educational institutions. Excellence is not a skill, it is an attitude. Sashun College stands true to these words of Ralph Marston as we constantly remind ourselves to take the path of excellence and make it our attitude towards all endeavors. This seminar has brought us together to a common platform to have a better understanding and clarity on the NAAC requirements, the upgraded requirements of the NAAC, how to address is what is going to be deliberated in the next 2 days. NAAC accreditation, as we all know, determines the quality of an institute in terms of education, infrastructure, research, teaching, and learning, etc. At Sri Shankarlal Sundarbai Sashun Jain College for Women, we value the quality of these aspects and strive to take the college one notch up each passing day. The seminar theme would highlight the qualitative and quantitative metrics of NAAC accreditation, framework along with its significance, and to make the HEIs self-reliable in preparing the SSR effectively. This seminar would also reiterate the need for holistic planning by IQAC and to inculcate the role and importance of data validation and verification process in accreditation processes. I am sure the resource people would give us a deep understanding of the NAAC accredited framework, thereby enabling us to enhance the IQAC's planning and execution of the NAAC requirements in order to achieve excellence in higher education. My best wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your in-depth view on NAAC accreditation. With immense pleasure, I invite our Secretary, Madam Srimati Usha Abhay Sri Srimal, to address the gathering.
A very pleasant morning to everyone. On behalf of Sri Shankarlal Sundarbai Sashun Jain College for Women, I welcome you all to this NAAC-sponsored seminar. NAAC is a tool which determines the quality of the institute in terms of education, research, infrastructure, teaching and learning, placement, etc. It is a hallmark for academic institutions. I'm very happy to have you all in the seminar. We have invited experts of the field to share their knowledge and guide to achieve what we all are aspiring for. I'm sure this will be of great benefit. Looking forward to a very active and fruitful participation from you all. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm words. With enormous gratification, I invite our Associate Secretary, Dr. Harish L. Mehta, sir, to address the gathering.
Respected Therajan sir, our Secretary General Abhijit Sirsimal, Madam Secretary Usha Sirsimal, our principal, staff, and other participants of this NAAC seminar. Good day to all of you. I welcome you all to this two-day virtual NAAC sponsored seminar on IIQA, SSR DVV, and peer team visit modalities and guidelines for HETs. NAAC certificate is a measure to evaluate and then guarantee a standard of education provided in higher institutions across the nation. NAAC accreditation focuses on improving the quality parameter of education. Institutions with NAAC accreditation fall under the category of institutions that offer quality education to students. Having said that, this seminar will be a perfect place to inculcate the requirements needed for NAAC accreditations. This accreditation process consists of student satisfaction survey and data validation and verification. The first level would be submission of institutional information for quality assessment. At the second level, information submitted in the SSR is subjected to an online assessment mechanism with data validation and verification process after an online evaluation generating pre-qualifier score. I hope that the fruit of this seminar will reach all the participants and academicians in the field of higher education and will work positively for the vibrant functioning of the IQAC and the process of assessment and accreditation at large. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your views on NAAC accreditation and its process. I'm glad to invite our IQAC Director, Madam N.M. Kavita, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, to address the theme of the seminar.
A very good day to one and all present here. On behalf of IQAC, I'm extremely happy to present the theme of this two-day NAAC-sponsored seminar. NAAC accreditation is a measure to evaluate and guarantee a standard of education provided in higher institutions. It identifies the quality of the higher education institutions in terms of various parameters, which includes the curriculum development, teaching learning process, research, faculty profile, infrastructure, governance, student support, and many more parameters. It gives an institute instant credibility and increases its admissions. Although several attempts have been made to make the whole process user-friendly and link the formats with the national databases on HEIs, most of the institutions face challenges in interpretation and mapping of data against the metrics, effective preparation of SSR documents, responding to the DVV clarifications, and presenting the performance of HEIs to the peer team visit. So keeping this in mind, the IQAC of our college has organized this seminar with the objectives to bring the academicians, educationalists, and academic administration auditors to a common platform to focus on the preparation of NAAC assessment process and its impact on the quality of HEIs. It also helps to identify the challenges faced by the institutions in the preparation of SSR under the revised assessment framework and the nuances in preparing the documents, identify the challenges in DVV process, and equip the colleges to be ready for the peer team visit. So based on these objectives, this seminar is planned as 4 sessions to elaborate on the 4 sub-themes as follows: First session will be on significance of NAAC accreditations in HEIs. The second session will be on SSR preparation under the revised assessment framework. And on day 2, the first session will be challenges and solutions in DVV process. And the last sessions will be on preparedness of HEIs during the peer team visit. We are sure after the successful completion of this seminar, the participants will be able to have increased level of clarity and focus in institutional functioning towards quality enhancement and facilitate internationalization of the quality culture. Enhance the understanding on the preparation of NAAC process and its impact on the quality of HEIs. So once again, I welcome all the participants and we request your active participation on both days of the seminar and take back all the valuable ideas and suggestions given by the speakers and implement the same in your esteemed organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for making us understand the theme of the seminar in detail. Thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. With that note, I invite Ms. N. Chandani, Department of English, Assistant Professor, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Diana. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the institution in the midst of such eminent personalities for the two-day virtual NAAC-sponsored national seminar on IIQA, SSR, DVV, and peer team visit, modalities and guidelines of HEIs. Let me first thank the Almighty for a resounding start to a knowledgeable 2 days that is to follow. I would like to express my huge sense of gratitude to the delegates and emissaries for gracing us with their erudite presence. A huge thank you to Professor S.P. Tyagarajan, Chancellor of Avinashalingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore, for laying the foundation and setting the standard for this seminar. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. Balchandra Bole, Secretary, IQAC Cluster India, MES, Abba Saheb Garware College, Pune, Dr. Swati Paliwal, IQAC Coordinator, Guru Nanak College, Chennai, Mr. Parag S. Shah, Founder, Member and Treasurer, IQAC Cluster India, PES Modern College, Pune, and Dr. U. Jerinabi, IQAC Coordinator, Avinashalingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, Coimbatore, for accepting to disseminate their knowledge for the benefit of institutions of higher education. We look forward to listening to each one of the eminent personalities. I express my gratitude to our Honorary Secretary General, Shri Abhay Shri Shrimal Jain, our Secretary, Srimati Usha Abhay Shri Shrimal, and Associate Secretary, Dr. Harish L. Mehta, Madam Principal, Dr. S. Padmavati, and Vice Principal, Dr. S. Rukmani, for the support in organizing the event and their presence here today. My thanks are due to the college committee members, IQAC team, faculty of the college, and participants from across India for the effectiveness of the seminar. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, ma'am. I once again thank one and all present here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
We are starting the session, Kavita ma'am. Can you just highlight on that?
Good morning, Bole sir.
Good morning, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Can we just wait for another 10 minutes, sir?
Sure, ma'am. No problem
We
at all.
sharply start at 10,
10
sir.
o'clock. Yeah.
Thank you for joining, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Boleji, this is Padmavati, Principal.
Yes, madam. Principal, madam.
Thank you for
nice
joining
to see
us.
you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Swati ji also I have seen. Thank you so much. Jirnabi ma'am, all of you, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Participants, thank you very much. Without the participant, I don't think so. This seminar is, thank you.
Dear participants, we request you to wait for another 10 minutes so that we'll start our technical session 1 sharp at 10. I invite Madam Dr. M. Anita Indu. Sorry for the interruption. I invite Madam Dr. M. Anita Indu, Department of Computer Application, to welcome and introduce our speaker, Dr. Balchandar D. Bole, Secretary, IQAC, Cluster India, retired Associate Professor and Head, Department of Microbiology, IQAC Coordinator, MES, Abasahib Garwar College, Pune, Maharashtra.
Good morning, all. I welcome you for the first session of two-day virtual NAAC-sponsored national seminar. This session is on significance of NAAC accreditation in higher educational institution, which elaborates the need, benefits, process, and preparation of institutional information and quality assurance. IIQA is a process to ascertain whether an institution is accreditation ready or not. Eligible higher education institutions seeking assessment and accreditation are required to submit the IIQA online. Today, we are having with us Dr. Balchandra D. Bole as our resource person for this session. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Bole has 37 years of teaching experience. He was retired as head Department of Microbiology, MES Abbasaheb Garware College in September 2017. He was a member of LMC and several central committees of his college. He was also awarded the Gunwant Shiksha Puruskar by the Maharashtra Educational Society for academic efforts in college development. He was IQSC coordinator for his college for 14 years from 2002 to 2016 and spearheaded the efforts of the college to earn A grade twice through the 3 cycles of NAAC accreditation of college. He is continuously mentoring the colleges for accreditation and was the resource person in the NAAC accreditation related workshop conducted under the aegis of RUSA, the IQSC Cluster India, and some of the universities in Maharashtra. Sir is also having rich experience in industry come academia. Sir has completed 2 postdoctoral fellowship, first in the University of Resina, Canada in 1994 and then in University of Marutis in 2004. His research thrust area were biodegradation of metal cutting fluids, problems in wastewater treatment and pollution control. We are very happy to invite you, sir, for this session.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. At the outset, I'll just share my screen and then start so we know what things are happening.
Yes.
Okay. I hope you can see and things are clear to you there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So at the outset, thank you so much for having given me this opportunity to address a wide diaspora of IQAC coordinators, teaching staff, principals, etc. across the nation. I also would first like to thank the members of the management of the institution, the honorable patrons, co-patrons, the principal, Dr. Padmavati. I also would like to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Tyagarajan, for having set the tone and making things a little bit easier for us. And of course, the conveners and coordinators of the seminar. So today, this topic which has been given to me is significance of NAAC accreditation in HEIs, the need, benefits, process, and preparation of IIQA, under the overall title of IIQA, SSR, DBV, and PTV, modalities and guidelines for HEI. So to begin with, we will look at these areas of discussion which are going to happen over the next 2 days, today and tomorrow. So these are the 4 topics which have been given, and Dr. Swati Paliwal, Mr. Shah, and Dr. Jerry Nabi will be discussing the other topics. I have put these 4 topics here to just show that there are some areas which need to be discussed first, especially with reference to the significance of accreditation in HEIs, the present mode, and what is going to come. Professor Tyagarajan had also outlined that what could happen, what is the status, and what he has a lot of experience with this. So in his short talk, he has outlined everything, which I hope to elaborate on a little bit. And if there are any questions, I would definitely take them at the end of the session. So to begin with, the outline of my talk today is number 1, the need for accreditation. Why should we go, or why should HEIs go for accreditation? Is it just a mandatory aspect, or is it a part of the NEP 2020, again, which has been told to the HEIs to be done? Or is it a part of the internalization which Tyagarajan sir was talking about in terms of continuous improvement of quality of education? And if you look at NEP 2020, education has been defined in 2 ways: general education and specialized education. So what are we really talking about as education? This also needs to be looked in. And accreditation is basically checking yourself for the steps that are happening for improvement. So accreditation is not something which is just a particular aspect where you talk about it and then leave it. So after 5 years, you forget about accreditation. After another 5 years, you are going to do that. Now, this is really going to radically change. I will be explaining that. So there is a definite need of accreditation. The second part, which I will be also talking about within the need, is the changes which are going to be expected in the coming years. Several documents have come, which I will be referring to. What is the process of accreditation per se? I had actually phoned up the coordinator of your college, and I had asked that, is the process of accreditation to be taken within this? So that process of accreditation I will be going over in a very, very, let us say, perfunctory way, very, very short process. But I want to highlight that because then there are steps in it in the new accreditation. And finally, I will come down to the IIQA, which is again, as the coordinator just said, is why we are filling in the IIQA and what does it really signify in terms of the later process, which you are going to hear over the next 2 days. So if you are looking at the history of accreditation all over the world, it actually began in 1880 with the regional accreditation agencies of USA. They thought that let us accreditate, because their system of higher education is totally different from what we have. They do not really have something called as the affiliated system. They have different institutions, standalones. They have what we call as constituent colleges. So all these and their diversity of specializations. So this began in 1880. There were 2 agencies, ACICS. This was the Accrediting Council for Independent Colleges and Schools, and ACE, that is the American Council of Education. Both these in 1912 and 1980 were actually established as a federal establishment. So it was to uniformize all the colleges. This is again, remember, in 1912, a century back. Though it was established around 1920, it took another 10 years for it to be established in the USA. All right. In 1994, which is a span of about 60 years after it was established in the USA, did we come up with NAAC and NBA in India in 1994. And that is where our story begins. We have been following the British for a long time, but I think here the British people followed us because they brought in the QAA, that is the Quality Assurance Agency, in 1997 as a uniformized system. In 2000, the European nations and the Japanese brought in their systems. In 2003, APQN, which is the Asia Pacific Quality Network, was brought in. After that, Sri Lanka and Africa came in, what we call as are following us or following some of the norms of Indian accreditation systems and the British accreditation systems. That came in 2007. In 2011, Australia brought it in. And today, in 2019 onwards, we have got new systems where we talked about quantitative accreditation. And today, 2020 to 2022, we are talking about NEP, reimagining what is accreditation, etc. So if you are looking at this history, we can see that still beginning with 1880, still we have not really come down to absolute quality parameters. So this is also something which I will be touching upon. Now, today we have got in our Indian context, NIRF, which began much later than NAAC, that is in 2015, which actually stacked up institutions in colleges, universities, etc., and said that on a certain set of parameters, these are the best colleges, these are the best university, these are the best higher education institutions in India. So this framework came up. In 2017, we came up with a new system for NAAC, where we are talking about quantitation again. In 2020, a quality policy was set up with the NEP 2020. And in 2021, when we saw the disruption due to the COVID pandemic, we said that we will now go into 40% at least online education. So ODL basically came into play there. So we are looking at a transition where several agencies, now I would not say different, but with differing policies or differing objectives were brought in. And the new education policy says that let us bring all these into play. Now here there is one more, which is in NBA accreditation. But I'm not going to talk about NBA too much because NBA basically talks about program accreditation. That is, a single program within a single institution can be accredited, but others may not be. So if we are talking about institutional value and quality, we are talking about either the NAAC or the NIRF, where ranking is done on the basis of some set and known parameters. Recently, if we look at these two, revolving around NAAC accreditation and NEP, there was a white paper issued in July 2022. Notably, it was on Guru Purnima, 13th of July 2022, where Professor Bhushan Patwardhan was the leader who is presently the NAAC Executive Council Chairman, and he brought out this, and this was reimagining the assessment. So this is also a little bit I'm going to talk about. And very recently in September 22, just I think it was 6th September, guidelines for transforming higher education institutions into multidisciplinary education institutions. Now this has been outlined in the NEP 20. So how are these two connected is also what we are going to look at. So we begin with the necessity of accreditation of HEIs. So the first thing is validation of educational outcomes. Validation of educational outcomes can only be done by a body in the nation which can uniformize outcomes for different programs. So education, if it is defined as general education, basically looks at undergraduate education and tries to find out what the undergraduate student should know either after 3 years or a 4-year program. So these general educational outcomes are very, very important because they are incorporating what is now propagated as multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary outcomes. So it is not going to be a single subject specialized education that we are going to look in general education. At the same time, we are also talking about specialized education, which is what we are doing now at the possible MSc level and a little bit into the higher undergraduate education classes. So these two have to be validated in terms of whether they apply uniformly to any student or any educational institution which is offering a particular program. And to uniformize this and to validate this, it is going to take some time. The necessity of accreditation, point number 2, it is mandatory as per NEP 2020. Sometime back I said that mandates have to be followed. If we don't follow a mandate, then we cannot hope to have uniformization of certain things. So as per our other mandates, which we use every day in class or every day in the institution, as to what the governance will be, how is this mandated? So similarly, NEP 2020, if we want to really get into it over the next decade or so, will have to be done as a mandatory aspect. And like I said, uniformization of educational goals, that each student, irrespective where he or she is in the country, will have the same educational goal for a particular program. Transferability across institutions. Professor Tyagarajan also mentioned about the academic bank of credits, and this academic bank of credits is what we are talking about as transferability. So I can actually transfer myself from one institution to another with whatever credits I have earned in my institution and go to another one because I want some other credits which are not being offered in my institution but in another one. Now, how this is going to happen is also what I'm going to deliver later on. Self-improvement for HEIs. This is a very, very important part. The reason for that, if they want to stay in the market. If you want to stay in this educational market and really prove yourself to be a elite educational institution, you need self-improvement continuously. There is no end to improvement. There is no stoppage of improvement. People talk about lack of infrastructure, lack of facilities, lack of permanent teachers, etc. But irrespective of that, we will have to improve within the limitations and within the framework that is available if we want to stay in the market today. It is also proposed that if you are to receive funding for either research or education hereafter, we will have to go through graded accreditation. So accreditation will be linked to the funding you receive either as a private university or as a government institution. And the last part, which I will be talking about, that accreditation will be necessary to identify institutions which are of the same caliber so that it will allow the formation of HEI clusters. Now, HEI clusters is something which is envisaged in the document where we are talking about multidisciplinary education. So these are the fundamental needs besides what we talk about as the philosophical needs of improvement and being globally acceptable, etc. These are valid. However, when we are talking about from the institutional point of view, this is the necessity of accreditation. Now, there are several points for and against accreditation. Because the way that we look at accreditation nowadays, at least 50 to 70% of institutions look at it in that way, right? Is a tick mark attitude. That have we done this? Tick mark it. Have we done this? Tick mark it. If you have not done it, then let us do it. So in this format, right, accreditation is, the objective of accreditation sometimes fails. That it is, we may be forcing ourselves to do something which we cannot do with a very motivated process. Okay, so if we are looking at the pros of accreditation, the first and the foremost is that reflection, self-analysis, critical discussion, and positive change. That we are looking for a positive change where we understand what our weaknesses and opportunities are in the SWOT analysis, and we want to either take that opportunity or address that weakness and get out of that weakness. So we are looking at self-analysis and critical discussion. Sometimes it is possible that there is a weakness which you cannot address at all, and therefore we try to spend a lot of time trying to address that weakness, and at the most try to address it to a 20% positivity. But in such cases, we spend too much effort on it and fail to look at other things. The second thing is, it holds us together. When we are looking at accreditation, all the colleges know this, that when the accreditation process is being carried out, when we are collecting our documents, when we are having discussion, it fundamentally talks about bringing everybody together and looking at ourselves for continual improvement. Conversation between stakeholders starts happening, which is now in the coming years, alumni are going to be the major stakeholders in assessing ourselves, right? And therefore, our conversation with our stakeholders, either the industry or the alumni or the present students, right, is going to be important. And therefore, that is going to happen, which is going to be useful for our present students. And we will have a certification of assurance that we are in compliance with the national integrity and with the national norms. Access to funding, I just talked about. If you are accredited, your access to funding is improved, and you will be able to offer transfer of credits. That means students would be able to come to those courses which you are offering, which other institutions may not. So your student quality and strength will also increase. So these are some of the major points which we sometimes tend to overlook. What is against accreditation? When a standard is set, it becomes a ceiling rather than the floor. So we always say that if I want to get in accreditation 4 out of 4, whenever I'm looking at evaluation of the metrics, I want to get a 4 out of 4, then 4 becomes my ceiling. Why can't I go more than 4 is my question. So instead of becoming the ceiling, let us make that I must get a minimum of 4 and go over that. So we should not take that standard as the maximum that I can achieve. It should be taken as the minimum that I should achieve. Then the workload associated with the accreditation process. Now, if we look at what is going to happen, maybe this workload, if it is taken systematically, would be reduced. However, presently the workload associated is quite a lot. Documentation, DVV, right? Mr. Paraksha will be talking about DVV. All this documentation, the preparation of the SSR, which has been made a little bit easy because you don't have to write and print and proofread everything all the time, right? The hard copies are gone, it's all online, and therefore it is slightly easier if you are comfortable with that system. It is time consuming and challenging because every time you start doing some work, right, you come up with something which is not exactly what you needed, But that thing happened 4 years back. Now, if I want to get a document which is 4 years back, then it may be difficult for me to find that, and therefore it becomes time consuming and challenging. Sometimes the numbers that we are submitting cannot be the only measure of quality. For example, if the number of permanent teachers is given as 100% of those sanctioned, does it become a measure of quality of teaching and learning, or does it become a quality of management rules? So this is sometimes what we have to do, because appointing full-time teachers is a basic norm. It is not the ceiling, it is the floor. Okay, so that number alone sometimes cannot be a measure of quality, and this is also going to possibly change the cost. There is an inherent cost of accreditation. It becomes 5 to 6 lakhs overall to actually get accredited, and many institutions, especially in the rural areas or which are financially slightly disadvantaged, may feel that this cost is a little bit prohibitive, and that may be going against accreditation. Not that they are not in quality, but it is merely the cost. And none of the present standards, this has been quoted by many people, that none of the present standards indicate improvement of quality in the classroom, which is the primary activity of NHII. So when we are looking at this, we need to look at the present standards and try to find, or let us say relate, which of them indicate improvement of quality in the classroom and present them in that way. Prima facie, they may not be that, but if we try to present them in that quality in the classroom, because the classroom is a private area where the teacher and the student are alone, they are not going to be exposed to the outside, and that is what we are looking at. What are the further blocks for accreditation? What is the motivation? Is it funding or is it quality? Whether our academics ensures job-ready students, we try to do that. We try to bring in skilling. We try to do that. So this is also going to change. Institutional diversity. So many different types of institutions trying to come to the same platform for evaluation. However, NAAC has over the last 2 or 3 years tried to bring about different types of manuals for different types of institutions. However, for arts, science, commerce colleges, etc., these are still the same. Not that they will differ, but that is one hindrance as to some metrics which are involved in the accreditation process. What is now going to come is, I was talking about understanding in the classroom, quality in the classroom. What is understanding and facilitating HOCC? HOCC is higher order cognitive capabilities, which is coming in the new framework, and it may replace what we are talking about as learning outcomes partially, and parameters which are sometimes inclusive with regard to outcome evaluation. So those, if you have people who have gone across NBA and AICTE, they are very much aware of this, especially some things with respect to mapping learning outcomes, etc. So in this context, we are talking about evaluation. The current problems that we are looking at, which are stated, some of these are stated in the NEP 2020, fall into two categories: intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic and extrinsic. The extrinsic ones are, we have very large affiliating university, and therefore sometimes control is lost. Number two, we have a fragmented ecosystem, fragmented in terms of diaspora, geography, right? And types of institutions, self-finance, private, government, etc. There is a very rigid separation of discipline. There are some interdisciplinary programs today. However, still about 80 to 90% are rigid separations. There is a limited access to students. We are talking about GER here. So that GER, when it was last recorded, was somewhere around 27 to 29%. We are talking about limited access here. Medium of instruction is another issue. And today we are trying to address through the NEP whether we should also create the same programs in vernacular languages or the language that the state prefers in India. Then there is suboptimal governance and leadership in terms of mandated governance and leadership. So there is a little dearth of dialogue between levels of governance and leadership, and to some degree there is an ineffective regulatory system. Now what we are talking about in ineffective regulatory system is reflected in the number of institutions that have already been accredited since 1994. Okay, so if you're looking at that, okay, we have got very few institutions which have been really accredited. And if this has to be sped up in a country like us, we need to have a continuous system of evaluation rather than something which comes periodically like elections every 5 years. On the intrinsic side, we have less emphasis on development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes. We teach, we hope that the student has got everything that we wish to transfer, and we have not been, for the last 3 or 4 years before that, not been really looking at learning outcomes, and our only assessment parameter was possibly the different types of examinations that we took and the results. Limited teacher autonomy. Teacher autonomy was limited to the classroom. How the teacher should teach was left to the teacher, depending on the subject, depending on the topic, depending on the teacher's forte of teaching. The autonomy that we are referring to, which was greatly limited, was the choice of the topics to be taught or the choice of the subtopics to be taught within a course. Now, even in affiliated colleges, a board of studies was there, and several contributing teachers from different colleges used to set up. And if you look at when it came back to the teachers in the colleges, they used to say that there is a shortfall in that. This should be included, that should be included, depending on. So this part should be got over. Inadequate mechanisms for merit-based career management and progression of faculty and institutional leaders. So merit-based career management, today we have CAS, right? And this mechanism which we are talking about, does it really talk about how well did the teacher actually carry out his or her work, which is primarily transferring and getting across and the topic being accepted to a high degree by the student. And of course, the institutional leaders, their administrative capacities. When we are promoting somebody to a vice principal or a head of department, what is the administrative capacity of the person? So this is maybe because when you have got a merit-based career management, which is being referred to as tenure track in the NEP 2020, this is going to be really an intrinsic problem, and lesser emphasis on research and publication. Now there is a larger emphasis saying that that emphasis is mandated, saying that all your publications should be in the CARE, UGC CARE listed journals. Now this is something which is going to be volatile because journals are coming in and going out. So this is something which is an intrinsic problem within the HEI to manage. Coming to the curriculum, which is being looked at, which is going to be again assessed, we need a reset on that. We are talking about interdisciplinary, at the same time talking about trans and multidisciplinary. We are talking about higher order cognitive capacities, HUCC. We are talking about outcome-based education. We are talking about academic bank of credits, and we are talking about teaching in vernacular languages or in local languages. Now, in this context, how are we going to do everything at one time? And which is very obvious that it cannot be done. Unless, for example, if I want to start teaching in local languages, it is expected that everything be available, including the literature that the student is going to refer to in the local language. So translation is going to be a major issue when we are going to talk about translating everything into the local language. It is not just coming to the classroom and speaking in the local language. Then talking about merging of disciplines for overall learning and talking about multidisciplinary, do the institutions or can the institutions over a shorter period of time in the, let's say, next 3 or 4 years, actually talk about multidisciplinary and a student, a single student, getting multidisciplinary exposure? So these are some of the things that we will have to look at in the curriculum, and this is directly going to affect the timetable also. Now, I've been talking about HOCC for some time. So what is this HOCC? Higher order cognitive capacities. Now, on the right, you will see that what people are talking about. But my question when you look at these aspects is, how are you going to ensure their assessment? That if I want to know that a student has the ability or the capacity for self-directed independent learning, am I giving the opportunity to the student for independent learning, which I will not teach in the class? So if I'm talking about, if I give him a couple of books or a couple of chapters or a few chapters, that these you will have to learn on your own, are the students ready? And if they do so, how will I assess that they have got independent learning? Similarly, critical reading. Critical reading may be done in the class. You tell a student a particular topic, all of them come to read it and maybe have a discussion in class that they are whether they have read or not. But the critical part of that is to ask them questions about what they think about the whole theory or whatever that lesson is, and try to critically assess that particular aspect of or that particular topic. So in this point, are they reading it for reading sake, or are they reading it to make something, to get meaning out of it? And critical reading will be followed by critical thinking, rational inquiry. So when they are thinking, are they asking the right questions to themselves, which is an indication of critical thinking. And these three aspects can be brought together and assessed. Now again, how are you going to assess? Innovative problem solving. This many people do. Give a problem and ask it to be solved. Many students would give the routine answer, and out of which you can maybe come out with an innovative problem solving system. So this is maybe a little bit easier, except that the teacher should also have read adequately enough to know that this problem was solved in an innovative way. And clear, precise, and effective communication. When we look at our answer papers today, we see that clarity, precision, and efficacy of writing an answer may not be up to the level expected by the teacher. Now, this communication, either written or oral, needs to be developed as a lifelong learning aptitude. And therefore, this is what we are trying to assess. And our exercises for assessment will be definitely different. Coming to the left side, these are more what we are calling as social skills. What are the pragmatic abilities of the student? How does the student face practical problems, or what we colloquially call as real life situations? What are their abilities to tackle real life situations, right? What are the societal and emotional aspects which the student faces and addresses: ethics, citizenry, and aesthetics. Now, these are ethics is something which should be what we used to call ethics and citizenry, following the right path under a mandated system of citizenry. And aesthetics is what we used to call how the person presents him or herself in all ways, walks of life, aesthetically. It starts with personality development, and it can end up to how scientific presentations are planned and delivered. So these are what we are trying to look at. Now, these are going to be assessed, but we as teachers and HEIs need to ensure how these are going to be assessed. Now, this is the document on reimagining assessment and accreditation in HEIs, which was released in July 2022. And this institution, or rather this particular white paper, had two parts. I will not be talking about the student learning part, the top part too much, but I'm talking about the assessment. There is a part 2, assessment and accreditation. Now, what is being planned ahead? And those of you who are going, those institutions who are going to go for accreditation in the next 1 or 2 years may not have a big problem. But those who have just finished a cycle and are planning the next cycle, this would be more important for those people. So if you're looking at the time frame, it is divided into 3 phases up to 10 years from now, okay, when it actually starts. The first phase of 2 years is talking about the system for accreditation and assessment and accreditation. And the first part is to rethink the system for universities and autonomous institutions first, because they are the ones who are going to be directly related with the curriculum, and therefore with the syllabi, and therefore with the learning outcomes. So they will be the ones who will be rethinking their assessment and accreditation. After rethinking, there will be a brainstorming and dissemination for the HOCC and transdisciplinary aspects. So the major outcomes of transdisciplinary and the learning are going to be brainstormed of whether they are included in the new assessment and accreditation. And the third part, which Professor Tyagarajan was also insisting on or talking about, was the harmonization between NBA, NIRF, AISHE, and of course, the accreditation system, that is the NBA, which is National Board of Accreditation, that, NAAC, NSC, National Accreditation Council. So it may not, 1A may be removed, assessment and accreditation. So these, we are submitting the same documents to all these. Can we harmonize them so that we don't have repetitive data to give to 3 people at one time? So this is going to take a couple of years maybe. The second phase is optimization, criteria optimization and TAFE. Today we see for affiliated colleges that the metrics have been reduced to from about 97 to about 55, right, in the latest manuals for accreditation of affiliated colleges. It's coming down to 55. There is no segregation of UG and PG. So this criteria optimization will keep on happening, right? And the system of TEFA, that is technology enabled formative assessment. Technology enabled formative assessment. So what we are talking about is one nation, one data. Data will have to be continuously submitted on the portal, which will be developed. And this portal, you don't have to submit it like a AQR, maybe annually submitted. There may be an AQR, but whenever a thing happens, whenever you have something happening, there could be a set format, and in this set format, you have to submit it. So it will be a formative assessment. That is what FA stands for. And technology enabled is because we are talking about putting it online in a real-time situation. When it happens, upload it. When it happens, upload it. And therefore, there will not be any need for the collection of the data thereafter if it is accurate enough. So this TFA, development and testing, would be coming in the next 2 years, that is next 3 years rather. And then from that, there could be the finalization and testing manual of the manuals. There are 2 parts to the manuals, and there could be, it's propagated that there will be 4 institutional types. Okay, so these 4 institutional types, right, would be included, and for each of them there would be a different manual, and this would be finalized and tested, and there would be pilot testing of this TFA and the manuals together. And once this is done, there could be self-assessment and accreditation expansion over the next 4 years, because it takes a long time. Streamlining the data acquisition, there would be several workshops on the same, and then optimize and implement in the revised form. So we are expecting this to happen. This is the proposed timeline. Not that it may happen only after 10 years, it may happen earlier or maybe later, but this is what is proposed. What I want to get across here is the assessment system is going to change. The TAFA, real-time data acquisition, is going to matter, right? And that is what we need to understand. Now, if you are looking at this is given in the same document, table number 3, the proposed framework, and there are 7 aspects, 7 parameters which are given there. So what are going to be the functions, etc. But what I have highlighted is what you need to look at. That is number 3, accreditation type. It will be binary accreditation and graded accreditation of academic programs and constituent units. So now here we are going to talk about binary accreditation, that is whether you are accredited or not. So there would be a particular set of parameters if you want to get accredited for a particular type of institution, and if you fulfill those conditions, then you are accredited. So there may not be any graded A+, B+, B-. You are either accredited or not. And for graded accreditation towards autonomy, there would be different programs like what is happening in NBA today, right? There could be graded or AICTE approvals that this program is approved, and for your constituent units. That is a university with its own constituent HEIs within its campus. What is the assessment nature is going to be progressive, and it is going to look at continued improvement as a result of TEFA, and the focus is going to be on learning outcomes rather than only numbers, looking at how much fulfillment you may have done. I'm not only saying that it will be removed, but that would be the priority would be on the learning outcomes. And the criteria for assessment and accreditation would fall into 3 categories under the title function and outcome based criteria. General educatedness, how much does the student have as an undergraduate student? What are the skills and abilities that the student has acquired in specialized education? And what is the contribution of the HEI to research and innovation? So these are the 3 major areas or criteria for assessment. And the data for assessment is going to be real-time, technology-enabled data collection. So this is something which we need to look at very, very critically. People are talking about interdisciplinary learning and multidisciplinary institutions. This is more or less a descriptive one. Everybody knows this. We talk about holistic and pragmatic solutions. They should be able to, students should be able to address. Vocation is more important than subject knowledge only, right? All this, then predicting the unseen and preparing for the same. So all these things come under why we need to get the student out only out of the primary subject There would be dual degrees, dual specializations. All these would be possibly coming in. The desired graduate outcomes, we are talking about general educatedness, is creativity and innovation. Does the student have that? Does the student have critical higher order thinking, more in-depth learning? All these kinds of things will also come in. And therefore, what we are looking at is a totally different system of addressing the issue of accreditation. Now, this is something which I have referred to from the NAAC website recently. The reference is the NAAC website, and I was looking at how many colleges are accredited grade declared institutions from 2017 to 5th of September 2022. And we are looking at a total of 3153. I was talking about numbers of institutions. Now you're looking at these numbers which are very, very low. So the people who have not gone into accreditation yet is what I was talking about, that the new system is going to be totally different. And therefore, the people who have already, the HEIs who have already got accredited, need to change, and those who have not gone need to take cognizance of what is going to happen. Then NEP has been included in NAAC manuals. This is now 5 aspects. Institutional preparedness. This is aspect 2A in the primary part, before in the college profile actually. Inclusion of NEP, that is institutional preparedness for NEP. If we are looking at this, it is also given in the affiliated colleges. Now, when affiliated colleges try to answer this, it becomes a little bit difficult. That what are the multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary aspects that you are considering? Can you write something about it? 500 words on each of these, each of the 6 you need to write. Academic bank of credits. So you may have a credit system. Would these credit systems be in line with the LOCF of the UGC for that particular subject? Skill development. Do you have any vocational, VOC subjects, or which are in line with the NSQF? Or do you intend to have any of those? And if so, how? Appropriate integration of Indian knowledge system, teaching in the Indian language, culture, or using an online course. Maybe you can create an online course in vernacular and give it as an online course so that students can understand better. Focus on outcome-based education. That are you looking at the outcomes very critically, and you are focusing your education on that rather than looking at all the other parameters and thinking of accreditation in that line. Distance education and online education, what are we doing about it? Are we offering for most HEIs or most colleges online education? You can actually express, because you may have been doing that over this or during the COVID pandemic period. So this is something which you can systemize and actually talk about when you are looking at the accreditation manual or submitting your accreditation documents. The AQR and or the TEFA. Our questions which we are going to pose is that will the AQR become redundant? The answer is no in the present condition. So AQR will still exist. It may change its form, but it will still be there. How will TFA affect the documentation process, submission and retrieval? Will there be some kind of format, right? And can there be a uniformized format in which you can present it? This has already been started when we are doing online submissions, that a particular document has been presented. The NAAC has brought in a DVB clarification that please present your documentation in this form. So these kinds of changes could also be taking place. And when you are looking at the AQR and the TFA, can you predict as an institution that how much of the documentation from the AQR is not, or let us say how much of the SSR documentation is not asked in the AQR but will be needed for the institutional TFA. So the AQR can be integrated, but it is not going to be the only thing integrated. So this is how you are going to look at the AQR also. Now, coming to the accreditation process in very, very brief, I'm giving this to outline the importance of the IIQA. So these are the three manuals, which are, there are 2 or 3 more: Sanskrit universities, health science universities, then teacher education institutions. There are more. What I'm talking about are these 3, and they are continuously updated, especially with respect to the data templates. So please see, number 1, whether you are using the appropriate manuals. The major inclusions everybody knows. What I'm trying to go look at is going to be the pre-qualifiers, and later on the correlation between the metrics. So is our institution ready for accreditation? There are 5 steps. Most institutions who have done first cycle are already registered. So if you have not done it, the first step is mandatory, where you will get a number. What you need to submit is the fundamental institutional information and the AISC chief information, so that you get this particular number. So once it is registered, which is a minor thing, then you are submitting your IIQA. Now this IIQA is to be submitted, or should be submitted, from my point of view, when 100% SSR is validated internally by the IQAC, the management, the principal, right, and all the internal stakeholders of the institution. So once this is validated, people ask, when should we submit the IIQA? I tell them, when your SSR is validated 100%, so that there can be no query. Okay. The IIQA is a hurdle for 2 reasons. Number 1, you are committing a fair amount of money, and if you provide incorrect information, right, it is likely to be rejected. Once it is approved, you are submitting your SSR, and once you are submitting your SSR, again there is a commitment of money, and you are looking at the pre-qualifiers of 25% of scoring in the QNM after DVV clarification, and a DVV deviation of less than or equal to 10%. So that is our second hurdle. The third hurdle is the qualification of the SSR, which includes the SSS, the Student Satisfaction Survey. So once those 2 hurdles are got over, your SSR is approved and accepted. The third is the commitment of money for the PTV. And after the peer team committee visit, you are going to be graded by NAAC. So is your institution ready for these 3 or 4 steps? And unless you are not, if you're ready with all the proper documentation and evidence, then only submit your IIQA. 98% is ready, can we do this? And usually this is because of the time frame. So this is what we are looking at. This is how the process will occur, right? From the IIQA to the NAAC. The important part in this slide is the time frame. That after your IIQA is accepted, you are given 30 days presently to submit the SSR. And if this 30 days you are not ready and you ask for extension, it doesn't look good on your part, right? Another thing is the validation here, the third party DVV validation. This is about a month. It takes about a month to do this. So you have to consider this time frame, both in terms of validation and in terms of submitting the SSR after the IIQA to actually look at it. So this is how it looked at. And once you have done this validation is over, your 70% score is generated. So you can't fiddle with that anymore. Your score is practically generated here, and the peer team is looking at the 30% of the score which is going to be generated later on for the qualitative metrics. What you have to do is all this. So your master documents are the most important. And therefore, the two things you need to look at, three things you need to look at very, very carefully are the DVB templates, the latest ones. I'm telling you, they are updated frequently. The latest ones, the SOP for documentation, right? And the glossary and rules. Look for the definitions. We often do not look at this, and therefore we need to look at that very carefully. The IIQA, the SSR, and the peer team visit, what do they do? Why the IIQA? The college information which you are submitting through the IIQA will actually set the denominators for every quantitative metric in the SSR. For example, if you are saying that the number of teachers, permanent teachers in my institution at present are XYZ, that is going to be the number of teachers which is going to be the denominator in the metric which is associated in the SSR. So this is going to be very, very carefully done, unless you are sure. Otherwise, you get a lot of DVV, right? Clarifications are needed. So this is the most important part of your IIQA. It is going to set the denominators. It is going to be associated not only with in the SSR, the college profile, extended profile, right, and the QIF. So these are the three areas: college profile, extended profile, and QIF. Right. So this is what we are looking at as the importance of the IIQA. Coming down to the IIQA, we are looking at a very simple form. However, when we are looking at the IIQA, our attitude towards the IIQA matters. Is it only a form to be filled and saying that this is what we have? So that is not true. It is the institutional information for quality assessment. Now, when we are looking at the last two letters, quality assessment, there must be something against which it is checked. That is it correct? Is it going by norms? Is it approved by the UGC? So these are not just mere documents. They are setting a basic score line for eligibility. Previously, we had a simple LOI, letter of intent, that we want to go for this, so please allow us. And a reply used to come, okay, do it. So the IIQA is also filled with pre-qualifiers for institutional information for quality assurance. You fill up the IIQA and upload the supporting documents, you pay the fees. You might get verifications and clarifications, which you have to submit in 10 days. Again, this time frame is there. So if you are not sure about your IIQA, these clarifications are going to come. And then going back and hunting for them, those documents is going to be a problem because you have only 10 days to do it. After the acceptance, right, then you are accepted, and then you go and submit your SSR and the whole procedure follows. But if it is rejected, you only have 2 more attempts with the same fees. And if again you fail with the 2 more attempts, then you have to start the procedure again and pay additional fees. So I was talking about a commitment of financial resources when you are submitting the IIQA, which is not low. That commitment is may not be very high for very rich institutions, but it is considerable. So please think about this, that there is a pre-qualifier here also, and an IIQA can be rejected. So there are 32 questions or queries, right? And these queries I'm going to address as per the questions. I'm also going to try to see whether they are affected or affecting which metrics in the following part of that, of the either the college profile, extended profile, or maybe the SSR. So this is what we are going to look at. The ones on this page, which you are looking at, these queries, these are queries which are fundamentally establishing your eligibility. And whether you are recognized, whether you are a recognized institution under the state government, the UGC, and the central government. So ultimately, number one, I've left out because it says which is the cycle of accreditation you are applying for. Now, when you are giving that, you will obviously see 1 or 2 or 3. If it is the consequent one after the first one, you have to upload the certificate. So that is a very simple thing which you will always have. The name of the college, what is there in a name, right? But it is not what Shakespeare said, name rose by any other name will smell as sweet. You have to give the name of the college as specified by the UGC. When you're doing that, we may have changed, an institution may have changed its name over a period of time. It may have added something, removed something, and therefore the name, if you have changed it, has to be notified to the UGC that our college was this, now it is this name, right? And therefore we should be recognized by this name. Otherwise, if you submit it under any other name, it will be not recognized by the UGC. So please refer to that name which is recognized by the UGC. We had a problem with this in our college. We called our college MES Abasaheb Garware College. Okay. Whereas what they had in there was Maharashtra Education Society's Abasaheb Garware College. So simply abbreviating Maharashtra Education College to MES was not recognized. And therefore we had this query when we had gone for the third cycle. But that was a different situation at that time. Date of establishment of the institution. This paper, this piece of paper, a document, has to be accurate, because the date of establishment of the institution which has been given to the Director of Education of the state government and the UGC have to be the same, and therefore that establishment institution has to be the same. Name and head of the head of the institution. Now sometimes what happens that for the last 5 years there was one person, and at present there is another person. So people ask, now whom should I put? For the last, who is the present head? That is the person. The designation has to be put. Does the college function from its own campus? What is the proof for that? That is the property documents in the name of the institution, right? The address has to be given as given officially, right, in all documents. Do not abbreviate it. Has the institution completed 6 years of existence, which is proved by the establishment documents, right? Or years of graduation of the last 2 batches. I would always suggest that give both documents. Years of graduation of last 2 batches for an affiliated college would be the supporting document, would be the official results of the university for the last 2 batches, whether undergraduate or postgraduate. Nature of the college, which is obvious, private, government aided, self-financed, etc. This document has to be got again from the state government, where we have got an approval of the college and the affiliation. The college affiliation is, of course, the university affiliation. If it is autonomous, we have to prove that. If it is an affiliated university, we have to talk about the affiliation letter and the state in which the university is located, which is obvious on the affiliating university document. Under section 2F and 12B, usually 13 and 14, the supporting document is the same. The UGC document where they say that you are approved under 2F and 12B. If it is a very old institution, this document could be lost into inverted quotes. However, they need to be retrieved, and if you do not have it, you need to go to the UGC, address the UGC, write to them, and try to get this document. In query number 14, you also have to give the latest plan general development grant release letter, which proves that you were getting funds. Now, the latest release letter, if I'm not mistaken, would be very old, because in the last few years, no plan general development grants have been given directly by the UGC to the HEIs. So this one, the latest one which you have got, to prove that at one point of time you were getting funds under 12B. Autonomous college by the UGC, this is our autonomous status. CP status, College of Excellence, all these will come in. Query number 18, programs recognized by any SRA, statutory regulatory authority. Now, there are colleges which have got programs which are approved by AICT, and that needs to be given there. Or in query number 19, programs which are recognized by All India Universities, this also has to be given. Or there could be some standalone institutions where only PG programs are run, like management colleges where MMS programs are run, which are affiliated to the university, whereas the postgraduate diplomas are now expected to be, since last year, to be standalone institutions who have to take NBA and AICTE approvals. So these are the types of letters or documents that we need to upload. Now, these have got no inputs which are different in terms of numbers or related directly to some other metrics, except for those which are descriptive in the college profile and extended profile. Then coming to, after number 19, we are coming to number 20, number of programs offered. Now here, there is a small problem sometimes, that when we are saying number of programs, we are essentially talking about whether the program is an undergraduate program or a postgraduate program. So the institution could be offering undergraduate program and or a postgraduate program. Under the undergraduate programs, there could be specializations presently. For example, if it is BA Economics, BA Philosophy, BA History, so each of these becomes a different program, right? And so there could be 4 undergraduate programs and 2 postgraduate programs. So your total would be 5. And this is also the same question is also asked in detail, which are the programs in the college profile and the extended profile. They also affect the metrics in the first criterion, that is 112, 113, 121, and 122. I'm not going to go into these in details because the next session is going to, Dr. Paliwal may be addressing those issues. Then criterion 2, 2.5.1, 2.6.3, and for autonomous colleges, we say that each program, each department should have an evaluative report. So in that evaluative report, the name of the program is there. So these are the metrics affected. So if this denominator is not correct, you will get queries across all this at the time of the IIQ. Query number 21 is program details. So you have given the programs here. The same programs have to be given in detail there, right? And therefore they are directly the same metrics which are affected, right? So all those program details are going to be checked, and therefore you need to be careful in these two metrics. Number 22 is going to be talking about 22 and 23 is talking about number of teaching staff by employment status, permanent, temporary, and by gender. So there is a simple table: how many permanent, how many temporary, and male and female and transgender. And then there is a total. Now these are the metrics that are going to be affected. A simple metric such as student to computer ratio or teacher to student ratio, right, could be affected, right? And therefore, if I'm looking at this college, by the way, what I have referred to is the manual for the autonomous colleges. So you can shift the same type of tabulation to a affiliated college. So all these, the first row shows the metrics for the criterion number 2. The second row is for criterion number 3, and the third one is criterion 4 and 6. So all these are going to be affected just by the number of teaching staff by employment. And what you have to attach as a document is this list, which is approved either by the management or the university or the government. So there should be an approved list of these people who are your teaching staff, either permanent or temporary. In self-financed institutions, there will be a problem of contractual. Now, contractual is also temporary. Permanent, as given in the respective states manuals of affiliated universities. So as per these manuals, right, these are going to be stated as permanent and as per temporary, right? So this is what we need to note. Number of non-teaching staff by the same categorization of employment status, permanent, temporary, gender. This is only asked in the college profile and the extended profile again. Nowhere in the SSR of autonomous has this been asked, right? So this is not a major issue, but this is the document is going to be necessary. And non-teaching staff is fundamentally including even the administrative staff in the college office, registrar, etc. All these. Then coming to the queries that are affecting the students, okay, that is number 24. Number of students on the roll by gender. This is the query. It is going to affect a lot of metrics. Criterion 1, criterion 2, criterion 3, criterion 4, and criterion 5. Only in criterion 6 and 7 is it not asked. Okay, so this is where we are talking about students on the roll by gender, right? And therefore, wherever there is student, for example, how many students attended a particular, let us say, seminar, or let us say how many were enrolled in a skill-based program, or how many students were involved in an extension activity. So this denominator is going to be percentage, and percentage is quantitative. So that percentage is going to be affected, and therefore this denominator becomes very, very important. Then those queries which are going to affect the internal quality assurance system, not only the IQAC. So the first question, that is question number 25, does the institution have statutory cells and committees? Now, which are these committees? Number one, you need to have an IQAC, you need to have a CDC, College Development Committee, you need to have ICC, you need to have a Women Development Cell. So all these mandatory and statutory committees, do you have them? When were they constituted? What were the minutes of the meetings? and what was the action taken report. So these are going to be affected, and therefore this has to be included. These are included in criterion 5 and criterion 6. The whole of the KI 6.5 is going to be affected by this. Number 25. 26 is date of establishment of IQAC. The minutes of IQAC meeting and action taken report should be uploaded on the institutional website. Very often we see that there is NAAC, there is an IQAC one, there is a NAAC tab on the website, and under IQAC there is only a committee and the objectives. The minutes of meetings and the action taken reports should be there on the website. So when NAAC clicks on this particular URL that you have given, right, it should go directly there and not to the home page. Okay. Then date of submission of AQRs for the last 4 years. This is a very simple metric, but the AQRs which you have uploaded are not the ones that are expected. It is the letter that you get of acceptance from NAAC, right? It is a PDF which you get for the last 4 years after acceptance that needs to be uploaded, because that will establish the date of submission. So these are the questions that are affecting the IQAS. And why I say IQAS is because of the 25th. So there is a quality assurance system, there's a grievance redressal cell, there is a women development cell, there's an ICC, there's an examination committee. So all these are in place, and that is what you are looking at in terms of quality assurance system. Coming to number 28, these are the submissions that the institution makes. Okay, that does the institution make a statutory declaration on its website regarding the RTI Act 2005 as issued and amended from time to time. So the latest one has to be put on the website. Number 30, date of uploading of AISHE details. This document for the latest one and for the previous years, this document, what we talk about as the DCS, data capturing system, that data has to be uploaded. Then number 31 is a fundamental certification that we have complied, and this is a format which is given. So 31 is submitted as a certification. So this is a simple document which is submission. There are some queries left which were not under categorized, but this is what I have to talk about. Number 8 says what is your URL of your website. Now this is the URL you will give, which will go to the home page, etc. But just to make a note here, all the URLs are going to be affected by this one. The moment they open your website, they will be looking at all the tabs, and in all the tabs, whether the paste link or expected URLs which are given in the SSR go directly to that particular aspect and not to the home page will be verified. So your website design and utility should be very, very accurate. If we say that we are looking at the IQAC minutes and we click on that particular link or URL, it should go to the IQAC minutes and not to the IQAC homepage. So please note that it may be under IQAC, but it should go there. Then number 29, does the college have an academic MOU with foreign institutions? This is affecting 113 and 372. This 372 is with a research academic MOUs, whether you have it with other institutions, and one of them could be a foreign institution. Whereas in 113, it has directly said that do you have an academic MOU with a foreign institution? Then, of course, the last question query is whether you have paid the registration fee. But this is what we are looking at. When you submit it, this is what the details you will have to give. or which you will get when when the IIQA is accepted. So the final form of acceptance, and when you print it down, will be containing this 30. So you have paid them online, what was your receipt number, transaction date, etc. So all these things will be recorded in the IIQA. So that essentially ends what the IIQA looks like, which metrics require submissions, which queries really need to be looked at critically, and what are the metrics that they will affect as denominators. And the supporting documentation I have told you from time to time, but these are 2 slides which I have put in here just to assist you when you are going to take this presentation home and look at it further. So these are the supporting documents, these 2, right? And you need to look at them a little bit more critically. Then coming to this document, which I told you was established in, or which was published in September 2022, right? Guidelines for transforming higher education institutions into multidisciplinary institutions. What I'm trying to tell you here is how you are going to look at your accreditation and try to answer and look at what is expected of the NEP parameters in the SSR. So what is our present status? That there is a university and the college is affiliated. All the rules are set by the affiliating university. We have a few autonomous colleges, but still some of them are affiliated. And all these affiliation parameters are set, and we report back in terms of curriculum, faculty selection, examinations, funding, partial. All this is what we are looking at presently. To a large degree, most of the time this is happening. What is expected, or what is the time for change, is there will be, the UGC is expecting to convert or to give graded autonomy and create autonomous colleges which will design their own curriculum, which will have their own faculty selection systems, own examinations. Their funding again could be partial, and they will become degree awarding institutions. So they will be a totally different institution. And later on, if they are big enough, they would possibly be called as universities. At that time, they have to make a decision whether they are which type of university. The other part is that there will be universities which would be either research intensive, which would be called as RUs, research universities, or teaching intensive, which would be called as teaching universities. And within that, mostly on the same campus, they would have constituent colleges. So there would be college, art, science, commerce, management, etc., within the same campus, and they would be called as constituent colleges. There would be existing affiliated colleges which would either later on become autonomous colleges and remain affiliated for some time till they become autonomous colleges, and those affiliated colleges, it has been said, which are offering or within range of each other in terms of demography and interest, would collaborate with each other to form a HEI cluster. Okay, and this HEI cluster could strive to become an autonomous institution, or this HEI cluster could strive to ultimately become a university, or it could become a part of the constituent college. So this HEI cluster is a concept which is becoming new. So colleges collaborate on this together. They have their own academic board, they have their own financial boards. All these are outlined in this transdisciplinary. The objective is to share resources, academic, financial, infrastructure. So if we are looking at this projected status, then accreditation would be for the HEI cluster together and not for each college necessarily separately. So this concept could be coming in. So the major points that we need to reconsider is how will the new normal evolve. So each institution type will have its own agenda, which in the NEP is called as the institutional development plan. So it's an autonomous institution or an affiliated institution or a university or a HEI cluster. The affiliated system needs to go because it is too large to manage, and therefore each autonomous college or institution needs brand development. Inter and multidisciplinary teaching learning processes need to be looked into immediately. All curricula will be skewed towards vocational education because of this multidisciplinary and skill development areas. Research areas would be defined indigenous research. Funding would be available for indigenous research as opposed to, would be actually given preference to other topics which we talk about in very, very defined areas. Performance assessment has to be rethought, and all stakeholders, which today also they are, have to be accountable. So there will be a point where we need to reboot the whole system. So technically, when I was looking at this, I was talking about this smart system in which these two areas, measurable, everything has to be measured, especially we are talking about the learning outcomes in terms of HOCC and value-based education. And they have to be relevant. Research has to be relevant. Learning has to be relevant. Learning skills have to be relevant. All types of processes have to be relevant. So this measurable aspect and the relevant aspect do come in. And finally, that is all I wanted to say. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, I would be really glad to answer them. Thank you so much for a very patient listening. Looks like there are no questions.
Dear participants, if you have any question, you can post it in the chat box. So there's a question.
Yes.
Is NAD and ABC the same?
Actually, what is happening, those credits, when you are going to define them, you need to submit them to the NAD. So ABC is fundamentally academic bank of credits, which credits there are. And those credits which you are offering have to be submitted on the NAD. So technically, one is the institution, one is the information. Yes. So to in short, yes, they are the same.
Next question. As an affiliated college, how can it get the feedback from the stakeholders on curriculum and do the necessary changes when it has to depend the parent university?
Yes, that is what I told you was a problem. The problem is that when the curriculum is designed by the university and the college only follows it, all that you can do is to take the feedback, right, and send it back to the university, is that this is what it is happening, right? So it cannot improve the syllabus, but it can say that we are actually taking some action by submitting that. That is the first thing it can do. The second part is that if there is a member of board of studies at the university level from that particular college, that person can put it on the record during the meetings of the BOS, saying that this is what the students need. And if it is addressed in the next curriculum, then this is what will happen. Because usually curricula are set and changed every 3 years. So if that person within this assessment period of 5 years, that change would be there. If not, we can only say that we have taken that and send it to the university or to the relevant board of studies if it is an affiliated college.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, what sort of proofs are needed to be submitted for faculty attending conferences?
Yes. So first of all, for faculty attending conferences, this is in the SSR, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Dr. Paliwal will answer that, but I'd just like to put a cautionary word. Please see whether that workshop falls under the accepted category by UGC. Otherwise, what will happen if it is a one-day program, right, which is not accepted? For example, today's seminar is a 2-day program, but it is in, let us say, it is co-organized with NAAC, right? And if it is co-organized with NAAC, then what is going to happen? That it will become a valid seminar or conference attended by teachers.
Next question is, what format should be followed for AQAR 21-22? Whether 2021 and 21-22 are the same?
Yes, the latest formats are given on the website, and they have also given the ones which are for the older ones, that is 2019, previous to that. So the AQR format which is given in Apply Online has to be followed. It is also given in the notifications which are scrolling up in the lower left half of the NAAC website. That is creation of the IQAC, the latest one. And in that document, at the end, the AQR is given.
Is there any time frame for affiliated colleges to convert it into autonomous colleges?
No, there is no time frame. There is no time frame. As of today, there is no time frame that one affiliated college should become an autonomous college. No, this is totally an area which the management of the institution will decide whenever they are ready to become autonomous. Just to give an example, there are some colleges of SNDT which are autonomous and many are still affiliated. So within the same affiliating university, there could be autonomous colleges and there could be affiliated colleges.
Is it necessary for government autonomous college to prepare policies like maintenance policy, curriculum, etc.?
It should, because a government college, even if it's a government college, there is an internal management system. Now that internal is so one government college will be different from another government college. A general policy may be given by the state government, right? But how it is being defined, interpreted, put down on paper, followed, and the follow-up or the action taken is an institutional, integral, intrinsic system. So that system has to be put up.
Is CO-PO mapping necessary?
CA and PO mapping necessary. What is happening today is that how are you assessing learning outcomes is being asked. So mapping to the degree that you can do under the system which is prevalent has to be done. Because I will tell you why this question is asked. When affiliated colleges look at other colleges, how they are doing CO and PO mapping, many colleges refer to expertise from NBA oriented colleges, which are engineering and technology or management. Now, because of NBA has a very set system of CO and PO mapping, right? Because their courses follow that system of curriculum, right? And which is uniformized across all engineering colleges. And therefore, it becomes a set system. To convert this set system for or interpret this set system for an affiliated college sometimes becomes difficult. So how are you going to do it? Set that system, go to an affiliated college, look at what they're doing, and then do it. It doesn't matter to what level you are doing it, but do it in the proper way. I will also tell you one thing, that to get this system into place and to follow it and to assess it takes at least 2.5 to 3 years. Because all the courses, all the programs, and all the diversity and standardization will take at least 1 to 1.5 years. Because to write them, to assess them, you have to go back and forth. So to answer the question is yes, you have to assess the learning outcomes. To develop the system, you need time. So the best time to start is now.
Sir, how can a non-autonomous college do the CO-PO mapping since the course outcome and the course content are not designed by them?
Correct. So I told you this, the same thing I want to tell you again. I have an affiliated college. What has come to me? Supposing the university, if you are looking at the most of the university syllabi, they have given objectives. Many of them have given objectives. Many of them have also given outcomes. How are you as an institution interpreting those outcomes or assessing those outcomes? If you can break them down further, this is the link, because the university has not told you or may not have told you how to assess those learning outcomes. Our point is, how am I assessing them? So my work begins with looking at those outcomes, interpreting those outcomes, if necessary, breaking them down into more outcomes, or let's just say course outcomes can be broken down in terms of how I am assessing them. I cannot specify anything more on this unless I look at a particular course, I look at the same universities, outcomes that have been shared with the affiliated colleges, and then try to look into the matter. But presently, I can say that the learning outcome that has been prescribed can be broken down from the assessment point of view and then assessed.
So can you please elaborate various HOCC assessment methodologies and pragmatic abilities?
Yeah, right now I can, the capabilities which I had shown you, what many people have been doing till date, most of us have been doing to date, is to use the Bloom's verbs or Bloom's taxonomy to talk about learning outcomes, right from level 1 to level 6. And when we are talking about assessing pragmatic abilities, we are talking about how the student is looking at or can tackle real life situations. So are we assessing those during our teaching learning process? That if I am a student of commerce, for example, and I have looked at my subject is economics, one of my programs, I am a commerce economics student. Can I give that student a problem which is real life today as to what would be the economic, what was the economic loss of the country due to the COVID pandemic, right? And how much time it may take for us to come back to the same GDP. This is a real life situation. Very, very big problem. Very, very big problem. But I'm talking about something in this context which can be broken down. I'm not a person of economics, but this is what has been actually articulated, right? Can we look at such problems? And this is the students' pragmatic ability to look at what practically is going on and not theoretically sound off anything that is coming back from theory. And what was the other thing was HOCC. The other question about HOCC is that how are we cognitive ability? Cognition is fundamentally how you understand and interpret. So I can understand one thing, but interpret it definitely differently. Today we are looking at swallowing information, digesting it, and regurgitating it in the format that is needed by a question paper. I don't want to regurgitate. I want to digest it and use it in later life, wherever I go for a job, wherever I go there. So if I'm expected to speak in English, I can speak in English for 10 minutes, okay, because I have taken that seminar, I've prepared a script, and then I keep on speaking, and my 10 minutes over, and whoosh, I'm ready. I've spoken and I've communicated. But if at the last moment, if I'm called up in real life to give a presentation and told to prepare a presentation about my work and present it, it can be more. So it is not a small thing. So am I prepared for that type of a cognitive ability? Can I digest information, prepare something on my own, and become creative and present it? So this is what we are looking at. It is beyond just swallowing and regurgitating.
Thank you, sir. The next question. Most of the affiliated colleges find it difficult to get A++ compared to autonomous. Can you share your views on the same, sir?
I would beg to differ on this. That there are many colleges which we know have at least got an A+. And the crux of that was very simple, right? Is to prepare in the correct way, right? And give the correct documentation. Now, in that documentation, like I had said right in the beginning, if you are taking the whole process as a tick mark, A is not possible. Processes are going to be defined very, very carefully. And many affiliated colleges have the disadvantage. Please note, they have the disadvantage of participation of students in many activities. And that is where they lose their scores. Okay. It may be due to any reason. Whereas in case of autonomous colleges, the autonomy itself, when it was endowed to the college, had guaranteed that student participation is high. Now, this is the major criterion where students come into play and where they want to get involved in this. And therefore, this dialogue of student participation and the teachers' motivation to make them participate has to be encouraged. That is the criterion which I think affiliated colleges should look at a little bit better.
Thank you, sir. The final question is, requirement for a program affiliation certificate is raised as a query after IAQA submission. So can you please comment on it, sir?
Requirement for?
Program affiliation certificate.
Yeah,
that is
yeah, yeah.
to
The
prove
program
survivability.
affiliation certificate, you are running, for example, 5 programs. These programs have to be affiliated. Okay. I will just show you if it is possible. Can I show you one program affiliation? I'll just show
Yes,
you
sir.
one.
Yes, sir.
Because I had expected this question. On the left, if you can see, can you see it, madam?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes,
This
sir.
is university. Sorry, this is not the one. Yeah, this is the one. This is the one which has been given in 13/1/2021 to a college in Delhi. So the Delhi University has given that the following courses subjects are taught in the said college as per approval. So they have said name of the courses and duration, what is the affiliation and period of validity. So this is the kind of letter they are expecting from the university as a supporting document. Is that okay?
The follow-up question is, can't that be mandated while IAQA is prepared, and why is it raised as a query later, sir?
No, I didn't get it. They have uploaded it.
Yes, sir. They have uploaded it and later they received the queries.
Okay, so there is one problem which could have occurred, which I see right now. There could be many more. I've not seen the document. So the one thing which could have happened is that they may have uploaded the document for the last completed academic year. And what is mandated in the IIQA is for the current year. If you look at the IIQA carefully, they have said this is for the current year. So the one which has to be given has to be the one which has got latest and not necessarily only up to the last completed academic year. But I cannot make any further comment unless I see the document and look at it a little bit more carefully against the programs that have been claimed.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for making us understand the NAAC accreditation right from the history till the current scenario, and for patiently answering to all the questions which was posted in the chat box by the participants. Now I invite Madam Dr. M. Anita Indu to propose the vote of thanks.
Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. With this quote, I feel privileged to propose the vote of thanks for this session. On behalf of the organizers of this seminar, I express my special thanks to Dr. Bole sir for spending his precious time with us today. He enriched us with huge knowledge about the assessment and accreditation of higher educational institutions. Starting from history of the NAAC, sir has told us about the necessity, process, and the detailed explanation about IIQA. We all came to know about the HOCC and the supporting documents which has to be added in IIQA when we are doing it in online, and the various queries which are raised under each criteria in IIQA. The session was really very informative and effective. My warm thanks to all the participants for paying their valuable attention and being with us today. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. I'll take your leave right now. Thank you, principal madam, so much, and all the organizers. Thank you. Can I leave right now, madam?
Yes, sir. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for your session and for continuously supporting us in all our seminars. Last year also we had the NAAC collaborative seminar and you were with us, enlightening us with your speech. And this seminar also you have done a great job, and thank you for your support and great work, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just one request, if you can later on give me the link for the YouTube thing. after the 2 days. I would be appreciate that.
Sure, sir. Okay.
Yeah.